Good morning. I'm Jane Morgan, the Investor and Media Relations Manager for ReNerve Limited. The company has just announced its latest partnership with Imbiomex, a medical device distribution company operating out of Mexico. Imbiomex will be assisting ReNerve with progressing their first FDA-cleared product, the NervAlign Nerve Cuff, within the Mexican biomaterials and surgical market. To tell you more, I'm joined by Dr. Julian Chick.
Morning, Jane.
So, look, Julian, first of all, what's led to this move towards Latin America? I mean, what significance do the Central and South American markets hold for a company like ReNerve and a product like the NervAlign Nerve Cuff?
It's part of our intention to go global, and we've previously reported other partnerships in Asia and the Middle East. So South America, Mexico as part of that progression. We do benefit from the fact that the product is used in the United States, and some of those surgeons from South America and Central America do come into the United States to events such as conferences and working in hospitals. So by nature, we get exposure to those. And that was really part of that catalyst that got us talking to our Mexican partners. We saw the opportunity there. That's really the catalyst.
So, look, Imbiomex is a key player in Mexico within the biotechnology sector. They have quite a track record when it comes to medical device distribution, importation, and logistics. Where would you say that their expertise lies in particular, and how are they going to be most helpful to ReNerve and the NervAlign Nerve Cuff product?
Yeah, so Imbiomex is a company that specializes in biological materials. And in actual fact, they came to us because of their specialty and they look for unique products, and their words to us. And so the fact that, when we met with them and reviewed them, the fact that they've dealt with biological materials, that's all they sell. They know the surgeons, they know the hospital systems, they know the hospitals, they can warehouse, they can do logistics within the country, and they're a great guys and girls. We naturally drew towards them for one, and they gave us extreme confidence that they'll be able to execute. And hence, that's why together we're working with them on the regulatory process and also starting to build up that presence there in anticipation of approval.
So, how does the expansion align with the ongoing strategy ReNerve has for products like the Nerve Cuff?
Yeah, so the company's commercial strategy globally was always a two-step process. First was to get its presence in the United States, which we're doing and will continue to build. We mentioned in our 4C that we've appointed recently that we've appointed our VP of Sales and Marketing there, and that will go to boost our activities in the United States. And then using the US as a base, we start to look global beyond that. And so this is is the next step in that process. And we will continue, as we've said before, we'll continue to look at other opportunities and, that going through 2025 to expand out from where we are. So we now have presences in Asia, in the Middle East, now Central America. We'll look at South America and we'll look at other jurisdictions. In addition, we have, some data coming out next month, and that will be a catalyst for us to look at places like Europe. We have been in hundreds of patients in the United States, so we can use that repository of that US data, both from a clinical study and just a general feedback as part of those processes in terms of clinical evidence.
So, look, a question that always comes through from investors, but what sort of timeline can shareholders expect from the process when it comes to entering the Mexican market? So, what key milestones can we look forward to, and roughly when?
Yeah, so we would hope that it'll take around about 12 months. There are ways that it could be extended or could be truncated. Obviously, we'll go with as fast as we possibly can, but it's sort of in that 12-month time frame. The benefit that we do have is that we have a partner that is very experienced in this location. They've done this plenty of times before. They're very familiar with the market, and so having those guys there working with us is, beyond gold.
So the company has obviously cited some incredible potential in terms of growth expectations for both global and the US nerve repair biomaterials markets. I mean, look, that demand is undoubtedly out there and growing, mind you. So We've talked about the US $6.19 billion market by 2031. Obviously, that's in the United States, but what potential do you think we can look forward to when it comes to the Mexican market or Central or South American market more broadly?
Yeah, so Mexico itself, the estimates are around about a $75 million market, which may sound small to some, but it's meaningful for us and for our partner. And then South America is another leg up on that. Again, there's some nuances within those markets, but again, it's a relatively untapped market as opposed to the United States. So you don't see a lot of other companies going into this region. Perhaps with the view that it's not big enough, or that America is kind of the holy grail in sense of market targeting. But from our perspective, it's just as important to go global, diversify your partnerships and income streams in that regard.
You touched on this just slightly, but are there any existing products or different approaches to nerve repair in Mexico or Latin American markets that could be considered competitors that perhaps weren't already on the radar in the US, Asia, etc.?
Yeah, so our understanding, and again, we base a lot of this on our conversations with Imbiomex, but our understanding is they're very limited. It's not been a market that people have pursued. So albeit that, they may seem like small markets for larger organizations, for companies like us, they are important. So, there's a great opportunity there to break into some of these markets and capture significant market share, because you will be a unique product. We think we're, have a genuinely unique product that has great outcomes for patients, but also, there's not the noise around some of those older competitors that are out there that aren't used so much. They've withdrawn almost, as it were.
Again, another question that comes through from shareholders all the time. So part of your first steps within Imbiomex have been to apply for regulatory approval in Mexico. So what does that entail specifically, and how does it differ to, say, the TGA here in Australia or the FDA within the United States?
Yeah, so we would obviously use the subtle difference is a lot of countries outside of the United States require some clinical evidence or a clinical evaluation report. And so we will use the clinical data that we've established and built in the United States as part of those application forms. There's a whole lot of other regulations around importing products into Mexico. And then there's also qualifications and storage requirements and so on and so forth. Now we have the great advantage that Imbiomex is a importer, a wholesaler, distribution expert in tissue products. And so we get a bit of a leg up in that regard. But, it'll be based on the information that we've already generated, combined with, the information that Imbiomex has relative to their logistics and storing and being able to ship it and supply it and sell it in the country.
Do you see any potential challenges specific to the Mexican regulatory process? And if so, what is ReNerve doing to prepare for those?
I think the biggest one is just time relative to regulatory processes. All of the data we have. And so it's more of a paperwork process and how well organized, the government can respond in those areas. Again, having a partner that is local, that is specialized in what we do there. We can't emphasize the value that they would bring for us in doing this process. And that is a lot of the overall approach that we're taking in terms of jurisdictions outside of the US. US is slightly different. We've gone with a more state-by-state 1099/local distributor model. And now with our first employee there. Whereas in those other countries, we see them, there are language differences, there's cultural differences to some degree. And not that they're hurdles, they're just things that you need to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we see that as more finding the right partners in those jurisdictions to allow us both to get through regulatory approval, but also getting sales and marketing, getting uptake of the product. And I guess this is also amplified by the fact that a lot of the surgeons that we currently deal with in the United States do have either colleagues that have trained with them that have gone back to some of these jurisdictions. We recently presented or attended the American Association for Hand Surgery there. We met some surgeons from Taiwan where we had a partner. We have a partner. We met some from the Middle East, some from South America, etc. So it's all part of a bigger plan in terms of leveraging, again, our US presence and then building out from that.
Obviously, with that answer, then it's safe to sort of say that there's no need for modification or any further work when it comes to sort of R&D for the nerve cuff product in order to enter a market like Mexico.
No,
I mean,
or anywhere else for that matter, yeah.
Or anywhere else, yeah, wonderful. So this is obviously the exact same product imported into Mexico rather than being any need for local manufacturing of any sort.
Correct, yeah.
So what about when it comes to education in the local markets, whether it's been with the Asian or Middle Eastern markets previously, or perhaps within the Mexican market? What does the process typically look like for working with domestic healthcare providers and institutions in a new market? Or given that the nerve cuff has typically been appropriate for current surgical procedures, is this not a big issue that some people might think?
I think it's more the education experience of the actual surgeon themselves. Now, the benefit is that we do get some exposure through international conferences, which we're regular attendees of and have been for a while. So we do have some of the initial touch points. We are guided by the importance of having a local distributor that already kind of knows the market and knows the potential customers. Imbiomex, for example, are already in hospitals. They are already selling biological tissues for other applications. So they know the surgeons, they know that already the existing demand. And so it's working with them and around our marketing materials, education, videos. We have a series of videos produced by surgeons that show the utility of the product, etc. We have obviously a big milestone coming forward is the clinical data coming out towards the end of March. You know, all of those will build a repository of information that they will then use to their key points. We'll attach those key target points and then build down from there, almost like a, top-down approach.
And finally, Julian, you touched on a little bit, but what should shareholders be looking forward to over the next 3 to 6 months from a news flow perspective?
Yeah, we'll continue to branch out beyond the United States, and they will be a key. We have clinical data coming forward. Obviously, our commercial development projects are continuing to progress. So yeah, it'll be around all of those projects. And we are continuing to do other activities around clinical data sets, workshops, etc., for the nerve cuff. So it'll be across the organization. There'll be ongoing news flow through 2025. And obviously that we have the new conduit product coming to market towards the end of this year.
Well, Julian, exciting times. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to hosting you next time.